Hey, welcome to the channel. My name is Eric. So I don't know if this is going to interest you or not, but we're doing an overhaul on two different John Deere tractors. And when I say John Deere tractors, what we're doing to them is we're changing them over to what we call the four-port system. Now, most of my older John Deeres all came with two ports, and that's where your hydraulic hoses plug into the tractor. Well, stay tuned and we'll go more into it. Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric. Today I thought we'd talk about chainsaw safety. Alright, so our problem has developed is a lot of the equipment that we're buying require four places for your hydraulic hoses to plug into. And what we did with one of the tractors was we bought a diverter valve made, it's sold by companies. I can get you the name if you need it. And you basically plug it into your two port, and then you have a handle, or you got electric. You can buy it either way, manual or electric. It's a push button. And what it does is it allows you to use these two ports when it's in the one position, and then the other two ports when it's in the opposite position, if that makes any sense. So the dilemma that we created this past year was we have a John Deere 434 round baler, and that takes the four port, and that is, it takes two for the hydraulic tie, and then two of them for the end gate to lift up and lift down. So you need four places to plug those hoses in. You know what you could do is plug in two, go ahead and get your bale all baled, and then unplug those two and plug in the two that go to the tie for it to go back and forth. But that's, your end gate will start losing its tightness, and if you don't have good tight bale when it's wrapping, tying, then you don't have a good bale. What we ended up doing was, a couple of years ago we went with a diverter valve, okay? And this past year I went out and I bought a or what they call it, a speed rake. It's a V rake, and it will do 28 foot of ground. And it brings it, you pull it like this and it brings it all here. Now that's a four port system, and the four port is to lift and lower your wheels because it's ground driven, and then the other two ports bring it in together or widen it wherever you want that to be. And when you put it in transport, you bring it all the way in and it jumps up and you pin it. But that's what we're going to go into. Is I'm going to show you on the 2640 John Deere what exactly we did, and then what I'm thinking about doing is doing a complete video on setting up the diverter valve on our John Deere 820 that we're going to use specifically for raking and pulling that big V rate, speed rate. So I hope some of you guys get something out of this. This is more directed towards farmers that are trying to do workarounds to create the four port system if they only have the two port. So let's go on with the video. Alright, so here's my 820 John Deere, and this is the one that we're going to do the diverter valve on. And I'll show you the one on the 2640, what we did there. But when I'm talking about two port system, I mean there's two plugs where you can hook into the piece of equipment. And that's fine if you have just the two port. But the problem we've run into is we need a four port system on this. So we're going to take and we're going to mount the diverter valve here, run these, unthread these, thread these right into the diverter valve, and then the diverter valve is going to have four ports on it. And on those 4 ports, it's got, ours is manual, where you push down to go to this side and lift up to go to this side. And when you go either direction, then you can use your hydraulic lift or lower, depending on what port you're in, for the positioning of the equipment. But let's go up and take a look at the 2640, and I can show you that we did something a little bit differently with that, because we have a couple John Deere donor tractors, and we decided that would be the best way to go with that system. So stay tuned. All right, so here is my 2240. This is going to kind of give you what the basics were on the 2640. You have a 2-port system, and then you have your hydraulic block, and you can lift and lower with it. It mounts right in there. So, and then it comes back and it feeds these 2 ports. So the most you can have on this is 2 port. So the workaround, this is the 2640. As you can see, we've got a 2-port here and a 2-port here. And what we did was went online and we bought a cheap aftermarket remote with the 2 hydraulic handles on it. We rewired it so that the 2 that were feeding the other port that sat here now goes up and it feeds the system. From this, it feeds whatever side you want. So you actually now have gotten a 4-port system just simply by getting a valve system, a 2-way with the 2 handles. And then if you can find a donor tractor to find the extra 2 ports, now you've got a 4-port. Now, with these, we're going to have John Deere ends that plug into it, but most of the equipment here is John Deere's, so that's not going to be a problem. But that's what we did. And we end up having hoses around that come off other pieces of equipment that we were able to, I think, spend 40 bucks in hoses and like 120 for the valve system plus our time. The Summit is running anywhere from, I've seen them on sale at $329 to almost 700 bucks, depending upon who's selling it. So this is our way of getting around it. Like I said, we have 2 other John Deere's that are parts tractors that are donor tractors, so we just stole this remote off from the other one. So I mean, hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of how to switch it over. It doesn't have to be John Deere. It could be Ford New Holland. I mean, it's whatever piece of equipment you have. You can make it a 2 to a 4. Now, going any more than that, that's beyond me, but we need just a 4-port system. Like on my Deutz, this is my big Deutz. I already have the 4-port system. That's the way it came right from the factory. And we could, if we wanted to, add more ports, stack them. But we'd have to change the hydraulic system on the inside to account for them. But this one here, she runs the big disc mower and the big baler. And then we have the loader on it. All right, so on that note, you guys have a great day.